Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Babergh District Council. I am Councillor Catherine Grandon, Chairman of Babergh District Council, and I will be chairing the meeting today. May I first of all remind you all of some domestic arrangements. Toilets are situated outside the meeting room, opposite the stairs. Cold water is also available in the breakout area outside the meeting room. If the fire alarm should sound, please leave the meeting room by following the fire exit signs and meet on Ipswich Town Football Club training pitch. Do not re-enter the building until you're told it is safe to do so. Please switch off all mobile phones and turn them to silent. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The whole of this meeting will be filmed, except where there are confidential or exempt items. If you make a representation to the meeting, you'll be deemed by the council to have consented to being filmed. By entering this meeting, you are also consented to being filmed by the council and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and/or training purposes. The council, members of the public, and the press may record, film, photograph, or broadcast this meeting when the public and press are not lawfully excluded. I'll now move on to the agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies for absence from Councillor Ayres, Councillor Gould, Councillor Jameson, Councillor Maybury and Councillor Newman.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest by councillors. Are there any declarations of interest? Thank you. No declarations. Item 3, BC 2234, to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on 22nd November 2022 for accuracy only. Are there any issues with accuracy? Thank you. Can I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Adrian Osborne. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Bryn Hurren. We're going to do this by a show of hands. So can I have a show of hands for all those who are in favour, please? That's carried. Thank you. Item 4, paper BC 2235, announcements from the chairman and leader. I refer you to paper BC 2235 for noting. And I just wanted to say thank you to those people who have bought tickets for my event this Saturday. And thank you to all of those who have kindly donated today for my posh raffle. I'm very grateful to you all for your support. Thank you. And I think it's going to be a good evening on Saturday. I look forward to seeing those who are coming. Thank you. And I'd now like to ask Councillor Ward to make his announcements.
Thank you, Chairman. I haven't got much to say this evening, just a couple of things. Firstly, you'll all probably have heard by now that our second bid for £5.8 million from the Levelling Up Fund for the Hamilton Road site regeneration and Sudbury Town Centre transport schemes failed. Indeed, there was nothing at all for Suffolk in this current Levelling Up Fund round. It is hugely disappointing, especially considering it had a medium to high benefits cost ratio on monetary value, in addition to other non-monetarised benefits. It has made a complex and difficult project very uncertain, and we'll be talking to Suffolk County Council about our options. You'll all probably be aware by now that as a result of last year's Elections Act, photo ID will be required for those voting in person in the council elections in May. A range of existing documents are acceptable as valid photo identification, and most people will have at least one of these, but those who don't will have to obtain a voter authority certificate. We now have an information page on our website where we have included a link to the application page on the gov.uk website, as well as information about how a paper application can be made. Now, this only applies to voting at a polling station. There is no change to the postal voting process. We'll be embarking on a comprehensive publicity campaign over the next few weeks, and we will include more details in next month's town and parish briefings. It would be good if everyone could publicise this as widely and as often as possible over the next few weeks so that no one is denied a vote on May the 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Item 5. Oh, Councillor Busby.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, with the minutes. Matters arising from those minutes. Well, can I just make an apology? The question that was put to me by Brian Riley about the increase in auditors' fees. The second question was I promised to get back to him. Unfortunately, I haven't done that. What I can explain to him now is that the increase was largely due to extra demands made by the government on the actual auditors in terms of our fixed assets. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Busby. We'll now move back to the agenda. Item 5, to receive notification of petitions in accordance with Council procedure rules.
Thank you, Chair. None received.
Item 6, questions by the public in accordance with Council procedure rules.
Thank you, Chair. None received.
Item 7, questions by councillors in accordance with Council procedure rules.
None received, Chair.
Thank you. Item 8, paper BC 2236, Overview and Scrutiny Committee Report. I would like to invite Councillor Hinton to introduce his report. Councillor Hinton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Excuse me. First thing I would like to do is to apologise for this report being 4 and a bit pages long, when I did say when I was made Chairman of Overview and Scrutiny I wanted to see all reports as 2 sides of A4 only. I will get there eventually, I hope. I'm not proposing to say very much about the report. It's all there in front of you. I would just like to say that I did also have to, during this period, approve a contract that was taken without competitive tendering, which was for fire and smoke alarms in our council properties to comply with legislation, which I was obviously quite happy to approve, so that we didn't then have to call it in as a decision that had been made. I would also just like to draw your attention to the scrutiny and cabinet protocol. It is mentioned on page 19 of your papers. I would say this is common sense, but as I said to a colleague earlier on today, as Mark Twain said, you can hardly call it common sense because there's not enough of it around to be called common. This is very logical. Let's use that word instead. And it links up the committee members with cabinet and officers to make sure that they're all working together for the benefit of the council. And I'm quite happy to take any questions, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any questions to Councillor Hinton? Fine. If there are no questions, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Item 9, to receive reports from Cabinet members. I would like to invite Councillor McLaren to introduce her report, paper CMU1, Cabinet Member for Communities and Wellbeing. Councillor McLaren, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I welcome this opportunity to present this update as Cabinet Member for Communities and Wellbeing. I must confess that as a ward member, my understanding of the communities and wellbeing activities was very limited. The member briefings I attended failed to give me an insight into the diversity and sheer hard work that is undertaken by 18 people to achieve amazing in-house and multi-organisational work on behalf of Babergh District Council. The work they are undertaking affects you, your family, your neighbours, your parishes and your wards. Over the past few months, I have worked very hard to understand the motivation and direction of our 3 locality teams, which were implemented last year, yellow, blue and green. I have met with various groups and individuals and found out how these teams' action and ideas are impacting those people who are in need. Of course, the communities teams have not the manpower or the financial resources to work alone. They work with and coordinate the efforts of health, the voluntary sector, the private sector, the police, other directorates within Babergh District Council and other councils. I have met and spoken with people whose lives have been and are being impacted by this amazing partnership. If you want to hear more, examples will be shared at the member briefing on the 31st of January. You have before you a very comprehensive report and appendices, details of past achievements and plans for the 4 key functions of our teams, which are community safety, which includes antisocial behaviour and safeguarding, health and well-being, community development and grants, leisure, sport and active participation. These underpin the Council's corporate plan through the strategies that reflect those functions. However, we live in a real world, and that real world came crashing into our plans and strategies with the pandemic, hybrid working and a cost of living crisis, which not only affected our residents, but our staff and also ward members. The 5-point cost of living plan was developed and is now constantly being updated as new and local national challenges present themselves on a regular basis. But there has been some revising of the initial 5 objectives, and you will see those in due course. But the baseline was to coordinate government support, to exercise discretion when providing welfare support and advice, to maximise partnership working and establish systems to provide targeted support in localities, to maintain good health and to enable people to access food and nutrition. I would like to thank Interim Director Di Robinson, Corporate Manager Vicky Mosley, and the 3 assistant managers and their teams, who have patiently dealt with my questions over the past few months and supplied me with endless invitations to participate and experience the real world of hands-on support. I would also like to thank the comms team, especially Jake Foxford, who promotes and publicises the good work of the Communities Directorate. In conclusion, members, I have 2 requests. First, please spend your locality budget before the closing date. There is still a lot of money unspent. The deadline is the 25th of February. And the second request, if you want to learn more about the real difference we are making in our communities, there is a member briefing at the end of the month on the 31st of January, and we welcome all members. Madam Chairman, I recommend that this report be for noting only. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Are there any questions for Councillor McLaren? Councillor Hinton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Hopefully not too complicated a one, but just to assuage one of my concerns, and that is on page 23 when you talk about each of the functions underpins the Council's corporate plan through the delivery of the following strategies or plans. at the bottom, Western Suffolk Community Safety Partnership Action Plan. We don't have access, and that comes before overview and scrutiny, that's how I know about it, but we don't have anything for the eastern part of the district. Now, we know that there is a very good parish liaison meeting run by former Councillor Trott Ward in the east of the district, but there's no formal Babergh representation on that, and it would be nice if we could have some sort of liaison with that group from Babergh to complete the picture across the whole of the district in terms of liaising with the police.
Thank you, Councillor Hinton. Well, that wasn't complicated, but I can't actually give you an answer right now, unfortunately. Can we get, in discussion with the Director and the Corporate Manager, we will get back to you in due course. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Davis wanted to say something.
Yeah, thank you. I'm the chairman of the Western Community Safety Partnership, and the Western Safety Community Partnership, despite its name, covers the whole of the district, from Haverhill to Shotley, in fact, including Grantham and East Babergh. So the action plan for the Western Suffolk Community Partnership is actually, that covers us. Eastern Safety Partnership covers Felixstowe and basically east of Ipswich, including Ipswich. Is that okay?
Councillor Lindsay.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one. I see my ward seems to have been written out of the record, North West Cosford, in the communities offices locality areas. Unless I've missed it, I can't see it in there. So I hope I've got a locality officer, and it's just an oversight. Thanks.
Can I just respond to you, Councillor Craig? The corporate manager and will get back to you regarding that, and we're sorry for the oversight. Okay.
Councillor Holt.
Thank you. Just looking for some reassurance from the Cabinet Member, if possible. I note and appreciate that Abercroft Leisure do a wonderful service for us in our community. But there was a recent report published that up to 30–40% of leisure centres could actually go out of business due to the increased utility costs that are looming for them. Is there any reassurance that she can give that Babergh will continue to support Abercroft Leisure as we did during the pandemic?
Thank you, Councillor Holt. I will answer very briefly, and then if the interim director would like to confirm what I have to say. We have recently done a review. I'm very satisfied with the relationship we have with Abercroft Leisure, and we meet with them on a quarterly basis, and so there is no fear at the moment of any untoward changes in that situation, but I will hand over to the interim director who can perhaps confirm. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to confirm, so we very recently had a very in-depth conversation with Abercroft, who are doing an amazing job actually under the circumstances, very much looking to their own practices to see how much they can manage and mitigate the situation that they find themselves in with the increase, particularly in utilities. They're doing very well in terms of their pre-COVID and post-COVID performance. They're nearly back, particularly in our area, at pre-COVID levels, which is incredibly positive. They have identified that due to the challenges they face, that they are potentially predicting a shortfall next year. But at the moment, they're clear that they want to manage that within their own auspices. But we do already have a prior facility in place for them, which is a loan facility that is actually in place until 2026 if they should choose to draw down. They haven't drawn down on that in the past because they haven't needed to, and they're hoping not to need to, but they have that as their sort of backup. If they did find that situation. We are maintaining our current investment. There's no reduction in any investment towards them, and we've built a very strong partnership with them, so they're being very open with us about the challenges they face, and we're doing what we can to support and help them mitigate those challenges.
Councillor Lindsay.
Sorry, just to apologise. I looked in the wrong place and I am in there. So I withdraw the previous. It's not. I've been lumped in with Mid Suffolk. That's what confused me. I was looking for somewhere in Babergh, but I'm not. I'm in Mid Suffolk for some reason.
Perhaps that means we have to take back what we offered you, Councillor.
Any further questions to Councillor McLaren? In that case, thank you very much, Councillor McLaren, for your paper. Thank you. Now I would like to invite Councillor McCraw to introduce his report. Paper number CMU2, Cabinet Member for Customers, Digital Transformation and Improvement. Councillor McCraw, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'm very pleased to introduce this update to members on customers' digital transformation and improvement. I don't propose to read through the entire report verbatim. I will try and summarise it and bring out the major themes. It's been a difficult period in dealing with customers over the course of the last 2 years. We all know the reasons why. I don't need to state them again. At the moment, this update is really to give you information on 3 key strands. Demand management in our customer service operation. This is, after all, our front of house. Our digital platform project, also our front of house, how people can access our services, and our new corporate programs, which perhaps is a little more internal. Demand management has been noticeably affected by an increase in demand. 7% an increase in calls, 19% increase in emails. And all of this has been taking place at a time we've had an increase in officers leaving to take up other job opportunities within this and other organisations. That has an impact on performance. We're aware of it, we know it, we've been measuring it, we measure very carefully. It got unacceptable in my view, and I think in that of many members. I can assure you it is improving, and the most recent monthly figures steadily approach our target time for average wait and the abandon rate. We have helped to manage the demand by exploring other opportunities to fill the vacant positions. The 3 apprentices mentioned in there, but in fact there have been, during this period, a constant training of new officers, particularly in the call centre. We'll be trialling this year the use of live chat, which is going to provide people an opportunity to interact directly during normal office opening hours. It's going to be a controlled trial, only 3 officers, and we'll see how that works. We're recruiting a process improvement officer to increase capacity, and we now move on, I think, to our digital platform project, because our web content and the ease of use of our platform is crucial. We want to make sure that people can find it easier to use. To that extent, we've selected a partner to work with us, and in fact with other authorities in a similar position. The company is called PlaceCube. It's what's called a low-code platform. I did ask what low-code meant. The best bit about it is that we don't have to have the high-level coding abilities necessary to crunch numbers. It is there for us. It's basically a set of tools that we can then, and people who are not necessarily trained in high-level code, can use to make it work for us. We can tailor-make the whole process ourselves. We will be working, as I say, with that supplier and with other users. There's a co-sharing organisation going on there. The main priority is getting the website replaced. To support that, we have recruited 53 people within our organisation to help constantly review this, as it were, from a customer viewpoint, as opposed to our internal viewpoint. It's not just a matter of making it easy for us to use, it's about making it easy for the customers. Longer term, our online customer forms, they've got to be worked on, and we're doing a lot of work on that. All in all, our key processes should be available by the summer of this year. In terms of programme management, we're taking a very structured approach here. There's a portfolio of programmes, and I will just describe them for you. Each one has been assigned a senior responsible officer, and they are those that you would expect. The programmes are in data, in climate change, efficiency and change, people and well-being. Those officers are currently in the process of developing the briefs, and they will be taking those forward. You should expect more information during the Q4 of this council year, so not long to wait. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the entire team. It is a team operation. I will mention the senior officer, Sarah Wilcock, as director, Sam Lake, customer, Matthew Harding, particularly taking a strong lead in ICT. Brad Jones feeds into our organisation, and perhaps the most recent addition, Jane Kennedy, who you've heard a lot from recently because we've been looking at our risk management and our strategic policy. Overall, I believe that the portfolio is in a good shape to move forward, not only for this year, but for future years. And I'd ask you to note the report. But the final thing is to thank the whole team, and particularly the person you speak to on the end of the phone and the person that deals with your query at Babergh. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Councillor McCraw. Councillor Simon Barrett has a question.
Thank you very much for the report, Councillor McCraw. One of the things I have a problem with is this use of customer. Definition of customer is a person or a business that buys goods or services from another business. I wasn't unaware that we are a business. If we are, that's changed. I think the wording needs to be changed because they are not customers. They do not have choices where they go to get those services and goods in the true meaning of customer. It's only a technicality, but I think it probably needs looking at. And I know you like to be accurate on these things, Alistair. You're a bit picky on these things, aren't you? So I think residents, council taxpayers, or something that is more accurately reflects the people that use our services. I think customers is a loose term. I think it's an incorrect term, and it definitely gives us the impression that we're some sort of business providing a commercial service, which we're not. Point. That's all I have to say. It's about the terminology.
Thank you very much, Simon. Actually, this is an argument, a discussion that has been had many times from a variety of directions. Now, I've worked in customer service all my life. I have direct experience face-to-face, on phones, and all these things. One of the things that I've noticed, quite obviously, is that when we put people into categories, we say residents, voters, we're not actually covering everything. It's a label. Why do I think customers is the appropriate word to use? Well, simply because customer-led and customer-focused organisations, and we are such, tend to be a great deal more successful than those who are merely sort of public services. The customer focus is a crucial factor. We treat our residents, our voters, everybody, as though they were customers. Not necessarily that they are customers in the pure business sense you describe, but the fact is that this is the best way to get the point across. And I will add that it's quite noticeable that when we have people who come from outside organisations where they have direct business customer service experience, that translates very well. So I would hold to the idea that we use the word customer because I think it's the broadest sense, and I think it provides the right ethos, if you like, the right culture. And that, I believe, is an important point about what this council is doing. We're trying to create a culture where we treat people with the due respect that any business would give to anybody, but particularly because they have an impetus to do so, because they're customers. That would be my argument.
Thank you. Councillor Lindsay.
I'm making a mental note not to do this too often, but I find myself in agreement with Councillor Barrett. He probably won't like my suggestion, which I did raise this issue when we developed some years back, when we developed the corporate strategy or the corporate goals, which had the word customer all over it. I agree, we're not a business. We're here to represent citizens. and citizens should be the word that we use, because the word citizen implies an obligation on the part of the citizen, as well as on the part of the people that represent them. The word customer is simply a transactional thing, and people say, well, the customer's always right. That isn't the case. If we have people ringing to complain about something that they, as a citizen, could have dealt with, then they're not right. Citizens have obligations and duties, and I think that's a better term. I've raised this before, so I thought it was worth saying again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very, very briefly, I have worked with organisations that provide some of the best customer service in this country. My own bank constantly comes in the top 2, not because I'm a customer, obviously. I've just noticed that it works. And what I'm concerned about is less about terminology and more about effect and making it work. Customers works.
Councillor Hinton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm tempted to make a comment about customers with people like Anglian Water and DVLA and Passport Office, who all call their people who talk to them customers, but I'm not sure that they're businesses. What I was just going to ask the Cabinet Member for Digital Transformation in particular to comment on was the fact that in these tightened economic times, people are cancelling Netflix, Amazon, all the other streaming services to save money, and in a lot of cases cancelling their internet connections as well. Are we making provision to make sure that the increasing number of people who don't use the internet are actually catered for in terms of our customers?
Councillor McCraw.
Something of a hypothetical question. I can't possibly comment upon people's use of streaming services and their subscriptions. All I will say is that, generally speaking, when these cancellations take place, it's most likely that the first thing they'll do is get rid of the streaming platforms. The last thing they'll get rid of is the actual internet provider itself. There is some development going on in the world and a wider world to produce low-cost internet access. It has a long way to develop because it requires a massive amount of, well, some anyway, government investment. But there certainly are moves amongst the ISPs to be able to provide such basic services. And we also have the fact that the complexity, the amount of data that was available to most people, not everybody needs that much data. So it is perfectly possible to produce a low-cost data provision through the internet and through 5G. But that's really not something I can control.
Thank you, Councillor McCraw. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly, if I may, to the Cabinet Member. One of the key tenets of good customer service is good communication, plain English. Paragraph 2.14 talks of business process re-engineering, platform integrations, workflow capabilities. I think all that our customers are concerned about is that their life is made easier. So with regards to that one paragraph, 2.14, online forms, are those forms going to be available wholesale at all of our forms, or is that going to be a period of time? And what does it actually mean, Alistair, if we can ask to our customers? Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Thank you, a former Cabinet Member for the same portfolio, asking a very good question. The online customer forms need to be simpler and more streamlined, and they do not need to be written in somewhat, little bit of jargon in 214. The forms do not need to contain that, and we're working actively not to do that. Plain language is going to be the order of the day, and the forms are going to be designed to be easier to use. And as I say, we have the shared experience of other users of PlaceCube, so that we know that we can make our digital forms easier. I would give examples, and in fact, I don't know if many people will have noticed this, but if you look at it, you can see significant improvement in gov.uk over the last few years. Gov.uk used to be a small nightmare. It has become increasingly easy to use, and I think some credit should be given to that, and we are going to look along those same lines.
Thank you. Councillor Holt.
Yeah, sorry, another point in here. The 2.1, 2.2 seems to give the excuses, but the headline figure to me is that 24%, 1 in 4 people actually dropped out and did not wait for the phone call to be answered. I think that's something we should look at, and I think as an authority we should sort of hold our heads in shame, really, because that is not good. And over the 4 years of this council, that has got worse, and it should not be getting worse, it should be getting better. And we have to ensure that that does get better. Our residents deserve better.
I thoroughly agree with you, and that's what we're working on. Those do represent a peak of the performance indicators. But as I've said, this is what happened. We have to deal with it, and the demand increased, and the staff to deal with it decreased. It's a little bit of a problem, but it's being addressed.
Councillor Melanie Barrett.
Hello, Alistair. You're focused on 3 key areas: demand management and customer service. I think I'm disappointed not to see a reference to the access points and how you deliver face-to-face services to members of the public. Is this a sign of a desire to downgrade face-to-face, although it's so valued by so many people?
I can answer that fairly straightforwardly. The access point provision that we have at Sudbury and at Hadley is sufficient unto the demand it is receiving. The need is obviously there. On average, we will have, I think, 2 people present on the 2 days in Sudbury, and generally speaking, they're dealing with a volume of face-to-face queries. Sometimes it's just simple photocopying, but sometimes it's advice. The average visit time for each of those individuals is something like 20 minutes or less. So they're not overloaded, they're not underloaded. There is no intention of changing that provision, and in fact our partnership with Suffolk Libraries is very successful indeed, and we're examining whether there are possibilities of expanding it further. Obviously that's going to depend on there being a library in a particular place where we have a similar demand. But no, overall, we think the provision is about the right level. An extra day or extra staff would make no difference. A day less, I think, would probably be a mistake. There's no intention of changing the current setup.
Thank you, Councillor McCraw. If there are no more questions, we'll move... Oh, Councillor Lindsay.
Sorry, me again. Just a couple of things. The increase in housing calls seems to have been one of the key drivers, housing repair calls. And I know I was speaking informally to Councillor Osborne about housing issues, but can we have reassurance that something is being done about the underlying issue of the apparent growing backlog of housing repair problems? That was the first question. And the second one was the digital platform. I'm very, very suspicious of ambitious new digital projects. They always overrun in time and cost, and by the time you've got them, they're sort of outdated, and there's some other whizzy bit of tech that's come along. So I just wondered, PlaceCube, do they have any, what's their track record? Have they done similar for other councils, and have you seen it working with other councils really well? And has it helped customer, you see, and now I'm using the word, has it helped citizens? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lindsay. I'll tackle the housing repair backlog because, of course, we've all been aware of the fact that during the pandemic, a backlog built up over a period of 2 years. That backlog takes time to work through. There is currently a compliance issue that is being worked through by the entire council, led by the housing team. We're aware of that. But, of course, once the backlog was there and everybody was back to more or less normal, then the calls came in. A lot of people just, they knew they couldn't get anybody to come out during lockdown, so they didn't ask. now they've been asking. That is mostly applied in 2022 and is being dealt with, I think, quite successfully, and we've discovered compliance issues that we're also dealing with. As far as the platform goes, PlaceQ do have a track record. In fact, one of the reasons that they were selected for the contract was that they are supplying similar organisations as ourselves, district councils and borough councils across the country. And one of the features I think that's important is that we'll not only be working with PlaceQ as a supplier, but there'll be a forum of the other users so that we can share our common experience. This is not designed to be all singing, all dancing. The whole point is we're not going back to scratch. We are actually using something that's proven, something that can work because it has worked. And I think that should give us some security. I'll also add that it's actually come in at a very reasonable cost. And in fact, I think we'll see some benefits from that in terms of the cost of running our own services.
Thank you, Councillor McCraw. If there are no further questions, we'll move on to the next item. Thank you. So we'll move on now to item 10, recommendations from Cabinet Committees. 10A, paper BCA 2228, Council Tax Reduction, Working Age Scheme, 2023-24. I refer you to the amended recommendations in the table papers. I would like to invite Councillor Busby to introduce this item and to move the amended recommendations. Councillor Busby.
Yeah. Okay, this has come back to us again. You're aware that we dealt with it a few months back. A couple of things have changed. We conducted the consultation. We've got a reasonable response to that, I suppose, but it supported our views that option 3 was the right one to go for. And since then, also, the government have come forward with some additional funding, which up to £25 per claimant. So that's why you've got the supplement, the change. Just to remind you, the reasons for the decision on this is that it's to increase the maximum reduction available to 100% from the 95% that it currently is, and reduce the number of customers undergoing recovery processes. To avoid unnecessary means testing and provide equitable access to CTR for all customers who receive, who receive welfare benefits. To reduce the requirement for recalculation of awards for customers on universal credit with fluctuating earnings, and to ensure that no customer is disadvantaged on the introduction of the new CTR scheme. So I think you'll agree that the 4 reasons for doing it are certainly commendable, and I would like to propose the recommendations as per the supplementary paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Busby. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Barrett. Thank you. Councillor Simon Barrett, sorry. Right. Oh, yes. Yes, Councillor Fraser, can I help?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wondered if I could just ask a question on the supplementary. Paragraph 1.2, if I may. So, the Council approves the introduction of an additional local council tax support award for 2023-24 of up to at least £25. Surely it's at least £25 or up to a maximum of. In fact, that doesn't quite make sense to me.
Okay, well, the award is £25. There will be an element of funds that aren't distributed under those £25, which we then have, as it says in the recommendations, that we then have options to what to do with that. I think the intention, the simplest way would be to increase the £25 to whatever it is to remove the excess. I mean, there are a number of other ways of looking at it, but that's the simplest way. Doesn't quite answer your question about an up to and a whatever, but the intention is for £25 and possibly a little bit more if we've got it.
Okay, well, we'll now move on to questions. Councillors may ask as many questions as they wish. However, they must be relevant to the subject under discussion and must be a question. Any questions? Councillor Melanie Barrett.
Thank you. Just thinking a little bit practically, for the recipients of this award, if I have this correct, they will receive a credit or not receive a charge. So that's for this coming year. Yeah. So in subsequent years, it will go back up to a level of 5% or whatever.
No, I think the intention is that the 100%, we hope the 100% will remain. It's the £25 that will probably disappear. The £25 is a discretionary extra benefit that we've been given by the government just for this year because of the cost of living.
Yeah.
I suspect that will disappear next year.
So in the following year, what will they pay?
Well,
An amount.
the citizens will pay it depending upon the...
They're not really customers, are they?
But they will pay an amount.
Not necessarily. They'll still get 100%. Some people get 100% reduction. What we're trying to do is to avoid the situation that we currently have, where it's recalculated just about every week, depending upon their income. If their income changes, so their contribution changes, and by the time we've told them what the revised figure is, they're into the next month's income and it starts all over again. So we end up with small amounts of in arrears. We end up with the customers not knowing exactly what it is they're due to pay. And we end up with then expensive kind of trying to chase the money. This scheme, we hope, will be more than self-funding. The amount that we save in administration will more than cover the cost to us of implementing it in future years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? So if there are no more questions, we'll now move on to debate. Councillors will only be allowed to speak once for 3 minutes, and this will be timed. Would anyone like to open the debate, please? So, Councillor McCraw.
Thank you, Chair. I think the only thing I would say is that we've been through this so many times in the course of the last 2 or 3 months. It's been subject to briefings. I think we should be moving to the vote to adopt the recommendation that's been put forward. And if it hasn't already been seconded, I'd like to second it. It's a no-brainer to my mind. Oh, it has been seconded, I apologise. In which case, I will be voting for it because I think we should just move straight to the vote. That's my question on my debate topic.
We do have a question.
Oh, fine.
Councillor Holt.
Yeah, just something that Councillor Busby touched on and Councillor Barrett. I mean, about the administration costs. I've harped on about this for a number of years. Every time we seem to change something, multiple letters are sent to our residents for £25, for £10, for the full amount when they're on credit, and then another letter comes telling them they're not owing that full amount. Something has to be done to improve the systems that we have in place because they're not working. The cost to our residents, the cost to us, the stress that we put on the elderly who do qualify and get a letter demanding full payment to subsequently phone up for 4 minutes 24 seconds and may get answered, or 1 in 4 may not answer, to then have to phone again and again and again to get through to someone who will actually possibly answer the question, who doesn't, who then gets a call back from someone that may answer their question, all because it's a duplication of paperwork that's being sent to them. So can we please get it sorted? It may not be you that does it after may not be any of us, but can someone please look into it, because it does cause stress to our residents.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Just to remind you, this is for the working age group of people, so it doesn't include pensioners. And yes, the idea is to sharpen up on the administration of it. I mean, it doesn't benefit anybody, does it, the way it's being done at the moment. Hopefully this will eliminate a lot of that.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can I just add to that, as the chair of the Shared Revenue Partnership, that's one of the reasons for doing this, because at the moment, every time, with the current discount that we give, every time their income changes, it generates a letter. This, by having 100%, will prevent that from happening. So it will free up, not only will it free up resources in the Shared Revenue Partnership to focus on other things such as the cost of living crisis that people are going through, but it will also prevent that trigger of all that, each letter every time their benefit changes. And you're right, it does. I've been to see people where they've got piles and piles of letters. So that's one of the reasons for doing this. It will hopefully prevent that from happening in a lot of cases. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Any more? Councillor Parker.
Yeah, I just want to expand on that last point, if I can, and I'd probably look to our officers, because I have every sympathy. I mean, it comes back to, again, we've got to make life simpler for our residents, our customers, whatever you want to call them. But I rather fear that a lot of this paperwork that they receive is probably from a regulatory and a statutory standpoint, is it not? I mean, what is there that, in reality, can be done to tidy that up? I mean, I think we should do it, but I presume that those letters go out because they have to go out. Would that be correct?
Can our officers answer that question?
Certainly there is a regulatory requirement for us to send a council tax bill. This scheme will allow us to not repeat that process every month as people's universal credit income changes, and that's primarily where the advantage is. We'll look at income bands, and if people's income stays within that band, then they won't get a reassessment. So they will still get their benefit notification letters, they will still receive a council tax bill, but hopefully they'll receive one bill at the start of the annual process. It will have the council tax bill, it will show the council tax reduction, it will show the council tax support, and it will show, if any, balance to pay. And hopefully, for most of the customers, it will be that one bill for the whole year.
Thank you. Has that answered your query?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to make any comments or debate? Thank you. So if the... Councillor Bosby, is there anything you'd like to add? Sorry.
No.
That's nice and easy. Thank you. So I'll now ask the Corporate Manager, Governance and Civic Office to conduct the electronic vote. Jan.
Thank you, Chair. That is now showing in blue for councillors to cast their vote. Thank you. Councillor Beer, can I take your vote, please? Thank you. And Councillor Lindsay, can I take your vote, please?
4.
Thank you. Councillor Cresswell. Thank you. Councillor Dawson, are you having problems as well? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thank you. So that's carried. Thank you. So item number 10B, JAC 2138, half-year report on Treasury Management 2022-23. I would like to invite Councillor Hurren to introduce this item and to move the recommendations in the agenda. Thank you. Councillor Hurren.
of lift-off, Madam Chairman. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It'll soon be spring, fellas. Don't worry. Better weather is coming. This is the Joint Treasury Management Report covering the position for the first 6 months of the financial year 22-23. It provides details of performance, effects of decisions taken during that period, and compliance with the Council's Treasury Management Policy. The report explains the factors affecting the strategy and activities, including the regulatory framework, economic conditions, interest rate, and liquidity risk. The economic backdrop during the April to September period continued to be characterised by high oil, gas, and commodity prices, ongoing high inflation, and its impact on consumers' cost of living. No imminent end is in sight to the Russia-Ukraine hostilities and its associated impact on the supply chain. Also, the mini-budget that wasn't really a budget and the continued Brexit difficulties also make trading difficult. Interest rates have climbed, with the bank rate increasing from 0.75% in March of the last year to 2.25% by the end of September, and it's now risen to 3%, Chairman, in November, with further rise probably due at any time. More specifically for our council, banking activities undertaken were within the daily bank account limits. Babergh has reduced its debt by £7.3 million. All investment activities undertaken were in accordance with the approved counterparty list. The Council's investment activities, including average returns, can be found at Appendix C of this report. The Council's pooled funds, excluding the CCLA, have experienced a drop in valuation, but an increase in the rate of return compared to the same period last year. The Council is compliant with the upper limits for interest rate exposure. The investment activity undertaken for the half year was done so in priority order of security and liquidity over yield, as prescribed in the Treasury Management Policy. I think I should thank the team. All this is a bit of a hard gig at the moment under the circumstances, as you will understand, and we rely on their expertise to get us through and take us forward. I'm happy to take any questions on this report, and I will answer them if I can, and if not, I will phone a friend, or two friends I have here tonight, so between us, hopefully, we will get the answers, Madam Chairman. Thank you, and happy to remove the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horan. Can I have a seconder? Is that Councillor Barrett wanting to be a seconder?
Yeah,
or is that a question?
Query.
Yeah, you can do both. So you're going to be a seconder, yes?
Yes, I'm happy to second. But it's just a query.
You have a question?
On the paperwork, on 10B, it says date of meeting 28th of November 2022. On the paper.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, but so what's the paper we've got then? Because it says date of meeting 28th of November.
Our officer is going to answer your question.
Chair, so just for clarification, that is the existing report that went to the Joint Audit and Standards Committee. The recommendations that you will be considering are for Council to note. We have to formally note it as part of the SIPFA arrangements, but it is the same report, exactly the same report that went to Joint Audit and Standards. And apologies for the, we should have amended the date and put Council on the top, so it's an oversight.
So I'm not mad?
No.
Fine. Well, okay, yeah.
We might be, but...
Relative term. Yeah, so it's slightly confusing. I think it probably needed to be clearer. But thank you very much, Jan.
Thank you. So we'll now move on to questions to do with Bryn Horan's presentation. Councillors may ask as many questions as they wish. However, they must be relevant to the subject under discussion and must be a question. Who would like to start? Anyone got? Councillor Busby, thank you.
Well, it's just 4.7. It refers to Babergh's overall debt reduced by 7.3 million, which is backed up with the figures on Appendix B. But when you look at Mid-Suffolk, it says the overall debt increased by 8.5 million. But if you look at Appendix B, it looks like it's reduced by 7.1 million. So just some clarification.
So, do we need some clarification on this then, Councillor Busby, or have you given that clarification?
No,
are we seeking?
The team have had a good few hours to come up with an answer.
It's very well spotted.
Yes, thank you for your question. I will take this one. Yes, there is an error in that section 4.7. That should have stated that the debt reduced by 7 million as shown in Table 3. So there is an inconsistency between Table 2 and Table 3. Table 2 was incorrect, but Table 3 has the correct borrowing figures within it.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out, Councillor Busby.
It's just to prove that somebody read the paper.
Any other questions? Any other questions, please? Thank you. So if that's questions finished, we can move on to debate. Councillors will only be allowed to speak once for 3 minutes, and this will be timed. Would anyone like to open the debate? So if there's no debate, we'll then... Oh, sorry, Councillor Hinton, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I was just having a quick look at the papers here to check that I was not sort of getting confused like Councillor Barrett was in dates and one thing and another. Just to say that joint overview and scrutiny did look at this on the 25th of July 2022 and we're quite happy to move it along. So it has been scrutinised quite extensively.
Thank you, Councillor Hinton. Councillor Barrett, will you...
I don't think I was confused about
it. Did anyone else wish to say? Councillor Barrett, are you trying to say...
No,
sorry.
No, I was just really pointing at Councillor Hinton's slightly tongue-in-cheek about my date recognition. Quite accurate.
Okay. Did anyone else want to raise any points or open the debate? Councillor Busby, thank you.
Yeah, I think just that this is obviously a report for the first 6 months of the year, which seems like a long time ago now, and quite a bit has happened since this report was written. And I think that's the danger of us seeing historic reports when we're actually trying to look forward. And I just want to emphasise that I think it's crucial that joint audit really grasp this for us looking forward, because things change very quickly at the moment and we could be caught out if we're not careful.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to raise any points? Thank you. Councillor Horan, is there anything you would like to add?
Well, just yes, in answer to Councillor Busby's point. When I first became chair, things were quite normal with joint audit and standards, and not much changed, but coming up to 4 years down the line, it's become a bit of a roller coaster, and hence we do need to keep our eye on everything and work smart. It is a bit historic, but it used not to change much, and now it changes weekly and monthly. It's a bit of a hard gig for everybody, but yeah, we are getting there. But thank you to David for his encouragement and observation, and great to know that he did actually read the report.
Well, to be honest, I stopped reading after I'd found the one thing.
Thank you, Councillor Hurren. So, as it is a requirement of the Code of Practice on Treasury Management that full council formally records that they have noted the half-year position, I will now ask the Corporate Manager, Governance and Civic Office to conduct the electronic vote.
Thank you, Chair. That is now showing in blue for members to cast their vote. Councillor Beer, can I take your vote, please? Thank you. And Councillor Lindsay.
It tells me it's done it on the screen, but 4.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And Councillor Creswell, have you managed to? Thank you. Chair, that is 27 votes for.
Thank you. So that vote is carried. Item 11, paper BC 2237, Community Governance Reviews 2022. An updated report has been tabled. I would like to invite the Monitoring Officer to introduce this report. Nifty, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, through you. I'd just like to draw everyone's council's attention to supplemental papers at pages 3 to 8, and just to give a brief explanation as to why you've got another report which has a number of underlinings in it, underneath it. So, just by way of background, the District Council agreed to a district-wide community governance review. A working group was set up in 2022 and submissions were sought. Those submissions actually just came in from Lawshall Parish Council, and they submitted that they wanted their submission was a request to increase the councillor numbers from 7 to 9, and Sudbury Town Council, who asked for a boundary change. Now, it's the boundary change that is the issue here. That because any boundary change within the District Council affected by a community governance review would have the effect of changing the boundary reviews that the Commission did, so the Local Government Boundary Commission for England, they conducted, sorry, yes, I will transfer, yeah, they conducted 2 reviews, one in 2019 and one in 2021, and they brought out some orders on the back of those. Now, those orders are still extant, they're still live, they haven't kicked in yet, but they're alive. So what that means is, if you're looking at a boundary review or boundary extensions for, in this case, Sudbury Town Council, what you're going to have to do is get consent from the Boundary Commission at the end of the day before it can be ratified. So as a matter of law, you need to do that. Any boundary review is meant to be concluded within 12 months. Statutorily, you're meant to complete it within 12 months of starting it. So the proposal on the original paper said that it would be subject to, and let me just read that out, it was proposed that we were conducting a further community review following the county council elections in 2025. And that's more than 12 months down the road. So as monitoring officer, I decided to say, well, actually, no, upon review, I don't think that's the way we should be going. So we've not concluded the original review. We still have Sudbury Town Council and the other one, Lawshall Parish. Well, Lawshall Parish Council is being dealt with today, but Sudbury Town Council is going to be a little bit further down the road after we've had some proper consultation. And that's really the reason for all the underlining in that original report. I can't phone a friend, but if there are any questions when you get to the appropriate part, would you like me to?
No, well, I need to seek a proposal first. Yeah.
So, can I have a proposer for the report, please?
So, yes, John Ward proposing. And could I have a seconder, please? Zach. I'll have Zach, please.
Second.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, no, I need to go to you, don't I? sorry. We'll now move to question. Councillors may ask as many questions as they wish. However, they must be relevant to the subject under discussion and must be a question. Councillor Owen.
Thank you. Sudbury Town Council, you say you're going to look into this. How long will it be, do you think, that you'll get an answer for that?
I think the first step is to go back to the Commission, ask them what amount of consultation is required to satisfy them at the end of the day, because there's no point going through the whole of this process if the Commission then turn down the consent. So that's the first step, and then after that, I say, the guidance says you're meant to do it within 12 months, so that's quite a generous period, well into that. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to give you a time frame, but we'll just follow due process as quickly as possible.
Councillor Owen.
So it won't be done before May then? Okay.
I doubt it.
Councillor Barrett, Simon Barrett.
Just to the situation with Sudbury Town Council, the original change in the boundaries was to tie in with the pre-2021 county council elections, which those boundaries are now changed, and the wording, I'm pretty certain from the Boundary Commission, was that you couldn't change it till after that period, which is what you've confirmed. The anomalies within Sudbury Town Council, where you have certain wards with 6 parish councillors and then other wards with 1 parish councillor, is not really acceptable, and it needs a rebalancing fairly quickly. And I think my other Sudbury residents would agree, or councillors would agree with that. It is really bizarre how they allocated the seats. So, for example, is it fair, that's the question, that a councillor in one ward can get in with 10 votes? I think it was 10, wasn't it? 10. And the rest of the councillors have to get about 200. Clearly not in balance. So it really does need looking at very carefully. Does the monitoring officer think that that is something that we can change fairly quickly? Question.
Subject to consultation. They have to put in submissions.
Sorry, is that the town council?
Town council, yes.
Over to the town councils.
Councillor Owen, did you want to respond, or are you content?
Yeah, well, that's what we.
Stand, please.
That's what we put forward. We put forward all this, so obviously waiting.
So obviously that's subject to further consultation. Any other questions? Councillor Busby.
I'm a bit surprised, Zach, since you were on this, that you didn't suggest that Wolsey Grange be hived out of Sproughton to become a separate parish. Is that something that you would like you discussed and considered?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think that very much depends on what actually happens with Wolsey Grange as a whole, because at the moment, I can't be too sure, because Wolsey Grange may be extended, it might not. So I didn't want to comment preemptively before everything had actually happened. So if at a point that does happen and needs to go through that process, then yes, of course I would consider that. So yes, thank you.
Have moved on to debate. Would anyone... Well, that was a question between the two of you, so I think we'll call that debate. So, shall we now proceed to debate? And you can each ask one question and only up to 3 minutes. Councillor Osborne, Jan Osborne.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to reinforce what Councillor Barrett said, It is absolutely crazy the way the boundaries set out in Sudbury, and as is already alluded to, you've got one ward where you just need 10 votes. I think there's 115 residents, where other town councillors are being asked to represent over 2,000 residents. So it is absolutely crazy, and I think when you come to consult with the town council, they will be absolutely 100% up for the boundary change, because that's what they're pushing for already. So I'm really pleased that you've, in the amendment in item 3, that you've changed the recommendation. So thank you for doing that. And residents in Sudbury will be very pleased to hear that.
Our monitoring officer just wants to clarify a matter.
Madam Chairman, through you for clarification. So we've already consulted. We've already got the responses. What we need to do is consult further. And that's not just with Sudbury Town Council, that's also with residents, etc. So there are other groups to be consulted with. So I think we've already got what we need from Sudbury Town Council as far as their response is concerned. Thank you, Councillor, you're nodding. So it's a more broader consultation rather than just be able to go back to the Boundary Commission and say, well, all we did was consult Sudbury Town Council. No, we've actually consulted far wider than that.
Yeah, obviously the town council are there to represent the residents that live in Sudbury, so that will be their view as well. So I'm pretty 100% confident that when you consult with residents, you will get the same responses as you did from the town council.
Thank you. Are there any further, does anyone want to debate further or have any further comments? Thank you. So, our monitoring officer, unless there's anything else you'd like to say? No. In that case, we'll now move on. I'll ask the Corporate Manager, Governance and Civic Office to conduct the vote.
Thank you, Chair. That is now showing in blue for members to cast their votes. Councillor Beer, can I take your vote? Thank you. And Councillor Lindsay, are you able to vote? Or oh, you voted. Thank you. Chair, that is 27 votes for. Thank you.
Thank you. So that is carried. We'll now move on to the agenda. The next item is item number 12, paper BC 2238, special urgent decisions taken by officers under delegated powers in accordance with Part 2 of the Constitution. I'd like to invite the Chief Executive to introduce this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, councillors. I'll be very brief, you'll be pleased to know. As you know, under the Constitution, where special urgent decisions are made under delegated powers, they need to be reported back to full council at the next available opportunity, and that's what you have here this evening. And I'll read this bit out, the Smoke and Carbon Monoxide Amendment Regulations 2022 came into force on the 1st of October 2022, and as part of our review of our compliance framework, we needed to make sure that we had provision in place for the delivery of carbon monoxide and heat and smoke detectors within all of our council tenant homes. That wasn't something that we had already available under our existing contracts, so we needed to enter into an urgent contract with a provider to make sure that that could be put in place by the 31st of March, and so that's what the report before you did in terms of making sure that we could contract that work, so make sure they're completed as soon as possible.
Thank you. So, unless anyone has any questions, that report was just for noting. So we'll now move on to item 13, councillor appointments. Are there any changes to placings? So there are no changes, so we'll now move on to the last item on our agenda tonight, number 14, motions on notice.
Chair, none received.
Thank you. So we've now reached the conclusion of our proceedings this evening, please note the next meeting is again a Monday. So the next meeting is Monday the 20th of February 2023 at 5:30 p.m. So I look forward to seeing you then. Have a good evening, and the meeting is closed. Thank you.